All right. And I think we are live, jumping in. So welcome. If you're seeing this little bit, because I don't think anybody's jumped on just yet, you're probably watching a replay and a playback. But I'm so glad that you're jumping in to watch this back. So we're gonna get started here in a second as people are jumping in. You guys know the drill already. Start throwing out a little bit of a shout out of where you're from, and let's do a little bit of a roll call for the first couple of minutes. But today we're actually going to be jumping in on the conversation that we started this morning about. At least I shared my story of why I create, and I create because I have to create. It's a way that I process the world. So we'll dive in deep on that today, and I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts and just ideas on that whole subject and why it is that you guys create as well. But we got a couple people jumping in so far. Hannah, hey, good seeing you. Great conversation in the comments this morning, Hannah. Also Jacob as well. Thank you guys for sharing you guys' thoughts and you guys' expression of understanding as to why it is that you guys create, and we could dive in more on that as we go. Lauer, hey, welcome. Good seeing you out there. Alan, what's up, buddy? Yo, yo, yo. Let me get a sip of water. And we will get rolling here in a second, but I'm so glad to see you guys out there. I love that it's oftentimes the same people jumping in right at the get-go and giving that roll call. So Andrew Gomez, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. Thanks for the hand wave. And yeah, but anyways, like I was saying, you guys jumping in right off the get-go, and I don't know, it's just, I know a lot of you guys I haven't met in person yet, but I always feel like it's old friends and just family that jumps on, and I get to see you guys each and every week, so I absolutely love it. Let's see here. Hannah says, it was an awesome conversation. Thank you for that, Nick. Yes, you're welcome. Yeah, hopefully I like asking those kind of questions. You know, I was responding back to you with questions, and then also to Jacob with questions, and, you know, on stuff like this, I think sometimes just asking one or two more questions deeper kind of brings us to a whole new level of understanding of why it is that we create, why it is that we move into, you know, the creative expression that we do and that we have. So Jacob says it's because the day job sucks, Nick, and you're more interesting. Thanks, buddy. Jacob Sedlasek, I'm sorry, I butchered your last name. Now I'll call Jacob Murphy from now on, and then this will be the other Jacob. Sorry for butchering your last name. So disappointed I have to miss today's conversation. Hope you guys have an awesome discussion. Hey, don't be too disappointed. You could jump in the conversation later on and follow up on the replay and leave us some comments over there, and we could continue the conversation afterwards. So that's the thing I love about switching over to YouTube Live from Instagram Live, is we get to catalog these things. We could go back and watch them again, or continue the conversation as we go. So Thomas, hey, good seeing you out there. If anybody else is out there lurking in the shadows and hasn't commented in yet, go ahead and say hey. I'd love to see who else we have in the conversation with us so far. So I just jumped over to Instagram and let everyone know that we were getting started over here. So hopefully starting too late in the day doesn't kind of mess up with all of our overseas attendees. VT shirt says, good to see you. Lovely. Do you give any books you published about photography? I'm curious to know what if you could rephrase that question, I could probably answer it for you. How you have it phrased right now, and I think the lost in translation thing is happening. But Michael, Mark, what's up, guys? Good seeing you out there. All right, so we have 13 people on, and we've been almost 5 minutes into everything. John Kramer, hello everyone. Awesome, good afternoon. It's Creative TMT. Yes. Also, I want to give this like right off the get-go, so that way you guys could start mulling over an idea. I'm looking for a new name for the series as we move forward. So today's video was number 15 within season 2. Once we hit 20, episode 20 in season 2, that will be the end of season 2, and that will actually be the end of 2 Minute Tuesdays altogether on this channel. But we will continue with this format of doing a Tuesday morning video and then doing the Tuesday afternoon live stream. It will just be called something different because, as I was sharing with you guys last week, I start to feel a little bad about calling these things 2-Minute Tuesdays when all my recent videos have been like 10 to 15 minutes long. So Tuesday top tips. Yeah, I'm open to anything. I like that as well. So you guys, as we're going, if you think of anything, just jot it out there, dart it out there. 12-Minute Tuesdays. They have been actually pretty consistently around 12 minutes. Seminar Saturday. Nice. Let's see here. Did I miss any comments up here? Andrew says, hello, hello. And then V T-shirt says, book about your photos. So I have one on hand. I normally put one around here. They're all back behind me, but I do have just a handful of my zines left available, so you can find those over on twostopsapparel.com. If you look underneath the zine section, there's just a handful available over there, so go check those out. And that's the only thing I have currently of books about my photos. I'm working on one, another one, but that's it. Michael says, hey Hannah, hey Jacob, and hey Nick. Wait a second, you said hi to Hannah and Jacob before you said hi to me. I'm just kidding. Great TMT today. Thank you so much. 20-Minute Tuesdays, twice on Tuesday. Tuesday Talks. I did think about Tuesday Talks. I was trying to 2 Stops Tuesday. Ooh, I like that. I was kind of thinking through, like, I was like, oh man, maybe we could call it like zone focus or something, I don't know. But then you start to get into like really, like something starts to sound really cool right off the start, but then like 10 videos in you start to realize, wait a second, this is a really cheesy title for these things. So yeah, I'm still looking for the winner. I feel like as soon as I see the winner out there, I'll be like, that's the one. We'll probably move forward with that. So Brian Corbin says, hey, hello. John Roberts is in here. Good seeing you. Anyway, so yeah, you guys can continue putting stuff out there, but I kind of want to recap a little bit of what this morning's video was all about. So the question came in from Robert, I believe is your first name, Robert. If you're here, good seeing you. But he's BTalk Photography over on Instagram, and he asked this question of, you know, if someone were to come up and tell you that you've already created your greatest image, really is what it was, your greatest image, would you still be motivated to go out and shoot if you knew that you couldn't top that image? And then why and why not? And the thing that I boiled it down to, I told a story about starting into my job and my position and moving away from photography, and then realizing when I moved away from photography, really the whole story was me understanding. It took me like removing myself from photography to understand what photography had actually become for me. And it's become very much a processing tool that I use to process the world around me. It gives me reason to go out and adventure. It gives me reason to be very present in the moment on the things that I'm, you know, watching happen before my eyes. And I could start to give weight to things. I could start to, you know, honor things. But then also it allows me to process internal emotions and different things like that. I talked about how my grandmother passed away earlier this year, and I had to have camera in hand when we buried her, because that was how I cataloged and processed the emotional response that I was going through of losing my grandmother, you know, and it was something that I didn't have when I lost my grandfather. And actually, you know, I'll share this. This weekend, I realized something that like hit me, and it made a lot of sense. So you guys know that I do a lot of chair photos, and it just became this thing to where I started shooting chair photos, and I just enjoy chasing down chair photos now, mostly because it's become kind of a meme, and you know, everyone trolls me on my chair photos, but I get to troll them back because I'm constantly making chair photos and putting them up. That being said, I realized this weekend when I seen a very specific type of chair, that a while back, and I'd never thought of this and I'd never considered this before, but a while back, I lost my grandfather probably about 10 years ago now. And after he had passed away, his wood shop, the workshop that he worked in his basement, was left very much untouched for maybe a year to 2 years afterwards. Now it's been cleaned out. Now that my grandmother's passed away, the house has been sold, and everything's been divvied up between all of my dad and all his siblings. But I wasn't into photography back when my grandfather was alive. I wish I was. I wish I had photos of my grandfather. In fact, we don't really have that many great photos of my grandfather. All we have is a drawing that was done of him from an artist at one point. But as I was going through and as I was getting into photography, I kind of reapproached the idea of my grandfather passing away. And one of the times that I went over to my grandparents' house, when my grandmother was still living there and alive, I'd gone down into his wood shop, and I brought my camera down there with me. And like I said in the video this morning, I started off doing HDR stuff back in the day. And this is back in 2011, maybe 2012. Actually, it was 2012 because it was during a daily photo challenge that I was doing. And in order to try and catalog these things that my grandfather would touch on a daily basis, he loved working with wood. He loved, repurposing and resalvaging violins, and he'd make all sorts of clocks, and he just always was working on some sort of project. He'd make these little puzzles out of wood and all this kind of stuff. But one of the things in the photo that I had actually posted up a long time ago, I'm going to actually try and dive back in and see if I didn't delete it. But there was a photo that I made of the chair that he sat in. And it was this low angle looking up at the chair, giving weight to the chair because the chair kind of represented, it was a stand-in for him. It was a sit-in for him. And I started realizing this weekend it clicked to where that was the first time that I delved into the idea of actually purposely photographing a chair and the meaning that was with it. The meaning, chairs are a place for people to sit, and sometimes the people that have sat in chairs are a special thing in and of itself. This chair actually, which way do I need to move? This chair right here, there's a purpose to this chair back here. It's a chair that was given to me, and when it was given to me, it came with kind of this idea that the person, or well, there was an idea that came before it to where someone said, I just picture you sitting down and writing like weighty classics. Like, I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I absolutely love writing. I don't do it nearly as much as I'd like to, but and they said, I just picture you writing these weighty classics, and I picture you in this like wingback chair writing these weighty classics. And shortly after, this wingback chair was given to me, and it kind of like got linked to the idea that person was given me. And ever since then, it's been kind of a deep thinking chair for me. I sit in it, and there's just, whenever I sit in it, it's to sit and think intently on things, and I realized the two things of my grandfather's chair that I'd photographed in his workshop a while back, but then also this chair that is a staple. It's a corner of my home office here that I spend time in, that I sit in, that I read in, that I think in, that I write in. And all of a sudden I started realizing like the intentionality of chairs has actually gone far longer than what I actually anticipated. It goes far beyond the meme that it's become on my Instagram feed. But I just, I bring that up because I love having these kind of conversations to where we start not only asking, why is it that I create in the first place, but two, when we understand, why is it that I gravitate towards a certain subject matter? Whether or not it is because I photographed my grandfather's chair back in the day, whether it is because I have this chair back here that interpreted into the chairs that I was shooting now. At least having understood the weight of chairs in my past, now when I approach chairs moving forward, I have a different kind of thought process that goes into it. And I hope this is translating well for you guys. I hope that you guys are getting to kind of mull over some ideas that you could start thinking, not only one, why do I photograph, but two, why do I photograph things that I photograph? And I could keep talking about that. There's something to the idea of, and I'll go to you guys' questions. I want to hear what you guys are thinking on this. So as I'm kind of talking, I want you to kind of formulate some of your thoughts. Let me know why it is. Even if you shared it in the comments this morning on the video, share it up here for the rest of everyone to be able to delve into as well. But I'd like to hear why it is that you've realized that you want to photograph. What is it that continues you photographing day after day. I'll pose the question back to you that I got from B Talk Photography is, you know, if you realized, if somebody told you, hey, you're never going to make a better photo than this photo that you've already made, what would be the determining factor to keep you photographing? I'd love to hear that. But one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot lately, to kind of give people some time to mull over their thoughts, is this idea to where oftentimes I hear people, and I've even said it in the past, and I even understand it in a very, very large sense of, I don't want to photograph something I've photographed in the past. I don't want to make the same photo that I've made before. You know, people will go, if I've seen that kind of thing before, I don't want to photograph it. And there's a lot to that that's very true. And there's a lot to that that I still hold true to today, where, you know, it's the whole conversation that we've had multiple times of, you know, I have the surface level conversation, and once I have that conversation, I want to push a little bit beyond it. But this idea of photographing chairs, this idea of photographing whatever it is, geometric shapes, all the different tropes that are in, you know, running throughout my work. I actually realized lately that I've been photographing a lot of hands, like severed hand. Not, I'm not finding severed hands. I'm just severing them with the frame. Hopefully, you guys understand. That sounded really weird. But I'm framing up hands within my compositions quite a bit. And it's one of these things where I could go, oh, you know what? I have plenty of photos of hands as is, you know, hands in certain positions, hands in doing, you know, holding on to railings on subway cars or whatever it might be. You know, I could think to myself, I already have plenty of photos of hands, or I could start asking myself, why is it that hands start to inspire me so much? Why is it that chairs start to inspire me so much? And when I realize that I still want to take photos of chairs, that means that there's still part of the conversation that I want to have, and maybe even that I need to have in order to bring myself to a better understanding, you know? I don't know. I share all that, and I'm actually really excited after coming away from this weekend with that understanding of my grandfather's chair, because I've very much been walking through the idea of what it looked like to photograph my grandmother's burial, of going back and looking at the photos that I do have of my grandmother and being able to approach her death in that way. But I feel like now, having this understanding of where my chair photos began originally back in 2012, I think it might put me in a different headspace of being able to approach chairs in the future, and maybe even kind of see if there's anything else of, you know, not to make it kind of like this weird omen or anything of my grandfather lurking around, um, but going back and processing in a way that I've never been able to process my grandfather's death before. Maybe through these chairs, maybe there's something there, and maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm looking too far into it, but I just like these kind of conversations. I like these kind of thought processes and these rabbit trails that I could run down with my mind and start thinking that much deeper and layers deeper on my artwork. So let's see here. Let's get caught up on comments. So Brian Corbin says hello. I don't know if I said hello to you already. Maybe I already did, but if I did, you get a second hello. So good seeing you, buddy. Finzi says, you made it. Just got back from some night photography with ISO 64 film. Not the best idea I've ever had. Hopefully you had a tripod, or you're just going to embrace the crazy amount of camera shake that you had. Maybe you have arms of steel and you're able to hold it steady. But that's awesome. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that with us. V Teacher says, as usual, you are amazing. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Andrew says, for me, it's pigeons. No clue why, but I have oddly large amount of pigeon photos. You know, and one of the things too, I'm not saying that this is what happened with you, Andrew, but one of the things is I do see across the board, and I've noticed this in my work too, of there's certain things that seem to be tropes across the photographic board, you know, pigeons or birds in general. Obviously, I have my fair amount of bird shots. Jacob, who's on here, is working on a whole entire series of bird shots. I think that sometimes it's us responding to the other photographs that we've seen, which can either be a good thing or a bad thing. If there's nothing, I see a lot of photographs, and I'm going to kind of take this in a very, very, side tangent, and then we'll get back to what you guys are talking about. But I see a lot of photographs to where I can see what people were doing. I can see that people had recognized great street photography. I'm speaking specifically in street photography terms. Great street photography, and they realized it as great street photography, and then they tried to mimic, and that's a good place to start. We all need to start by emulating the masters. Maybe not all of us need to start that way, but a lot of us do start that way, in emulating the masters and bringing it to a place where we can understand how they thought, and then bring it into a different place with our own thought process. But oftentimes I'm looking at works and I'm going, there's nothing really engaging in here. It's just kind of an imitation of something that they had seen, but the something that they had seen actually had an engaging moment that happened in it. And again, Andrew, that's not what I'm saying. And I don't even know if maybe I've seen your work. I can't think if I have or not. So I'm not saying anything on your work, but I do think as far as the pigeon photos, because I have a lot as well. I came back from New York this last time with a good handful, a lot that I haven't even seen yet. Actually, Jacob and I went out the Friday that I got out there. We went out walking, and we both probably put maybe 3 rolls. I think Jacob probably put 3. I think I put 2, and most of my photos were him chasing around the pigeons. But I think together we probably shot maybe 5 or 6 rolls of pigeons just alone. It was funny. But I do think that a lot of the times that kind of thing is us responding to other great works that we've seen. Which isn't a bad thing. Like I said, as long as we're aware of it and we could start diving down that. Right now, my entire project that I'm working on as far as a zine is a whole call and response thing, to where I've seen a specific book, and I'm essentially going to copy the styling and the form factor of the book as an initial call and response. There is a call from the book that I'm responding to, and it's going to start to direct the way that I pair up the works that go into it. But then from there, the project kind of gets expounded a little bit more, and it very much becomes my own thing. But I say all that to say, to understand that sometimes it is just us responding back to the call of other great works, which is not a bad thing at all. Michael says, this is such a brilliant insight. I think we all have the appeal to us in different ways, but it's beautiful to understand chairs. Yes. Hannah says, love the connection between people and chairs, and the chairs in which they sat in, and the way it recently clicked that it stemmed originally from your grandfather's chair. Yeah, it's interesting, because if you think, chairs have for a long time become, a staple of weight and honor. And you think about a king sits in a throne. You think about the Lincoln Memorial. You walk up on the Lincoln Memorial, they could have done a picture of Lincoln standing tall and brave, but they did a picture of him, leaning onto a chair and sitting in a chair, and there's this weightiness of it that I think sometimes justifies the weight of the character, right? When you have this large scale chair or a specific type of chair, it starts to justify the person that sat in it, being that it was a standard work chair that was in a wood shop, but at the same time, there's just something to it. Michael says, for me, my best photo should always be my next one. If someone tells me that I have taken my best image, I am proving that person wrong. I love that photography allows me to forever learn. Yes, I completely agree. And I said this in a couple comments this morning, because I think we hear that and we start to think that people are trying to put limitations on us, and that wasn't B-Talk's question at all. The thing that I love about the question that came in is it's completely hypothetical, and it falls apart very quickly, right? Because the idea that we've made our best work is irrelevant. Art is, one, subjective, and then 2, we're constantly growing. We're constantly chasing after the idea of making better work. But with that being said, I love the idea of thinking about, if that could happen, if someone did have the weight to be able to come up and go, look, you're not going to create anything better than this. If that could happen, hypothetically, then what would continue pushing us after that? Because yes, we have a drive, but I think sometimes we get into these creative ruts because we start to lose the drive of creating a good photo, because we start to get into the creative depression of I'm not capable of making a good photo. And I think all of us end up in that place at least a couple times, if not a year. I feel like I'm in that place a couple times a year to where I'm going, if my goal with photography is to chase down the next great photo, in the moments that I feel broken, in the moments that I feel like I'm not capable of making the next great photo, all of a sudden my drive for photography is squashed. And it's not until I get back to a place where I feel like, okay, possibly I could get out there and create another good photo. Possibly I could get out there and push myself. But if I'm honest, there's definitely times where I don't feel like I'm even capable of doing so. So I think when we remove that aspect from the thing, and I actually love it. A couple of you guys message or commented in the comment section of the video and said, you know what? I don't even look for the great photos in my work. I just want creative freedom, and I want to be able to respond to life as I'm experiencing it. And I absolutely love that answer. Because I think if we push ourselves beyond the idea of making great work, even though we should be pushing ourselves to make great work, if we're going to try and pursue like an artistic career or whatever it might look like, but in pushing us beyond that idea of making a great photo, then what's left? And it's okay if nothing's left. We just need to understand at that point, then in the creative depression, then we're going to have to roll through it, and we're just going to have to get ourselves to a place of understanding we can make another great photo. But if, for me, it's oftentimes looking for the mysteries and the wonders of the world, right? I love somebody was commenting about the interview that I did with John Wilkening this last week, to where we talked very much about how questions. Uh, I like creating work that has deep, meaningful questions that leaves someone with more of a question than an answer. And for me, I like to question the world. I like to question reality. I like to question myself. I like to question all sorts of different things as I'm going out there and photographing. And if I could just understand that my initial intent on photography is being able to explore the world through the lens, explore the world and give weight to things and respond to things, then those moments of creative depression to where I feel like I can't make a great photo, hopefully I'll be in a better place to where I could go, even if I can't create a great photo, I just want to go out and explore, because that's the reason why I create in the first place. Creating a great body of work is an added bonus, or something that I chase after, but the reason why I photograph is something completely different. So that's to kind of reframe the question. That I believe is what the question actually was, and I think is something to where when we actually delve into that kind of thought process and allow it to be a hypothetical question, and allow it to get us past the idea of course I could go out and make a better photo of the stuff that I've made, and hopefully that's the case. But pushing ourselves beyond that, I think, causes us to ask even deeper, more meaningful questions. Because this is another thing, and Michael, I'm not trying to, I've actually moved on from responding to your particular point, but the idea of creating a great photo, what I deem to be a great photo today is going to be completely different from the future. Both maybe because my work has improved, but maybe because my creative vision is chasing down a different rabbit hole. Maybe I'm asking a different set of questions and in approaching a different set of circumstances. So hopefully that makes sense. Anna says, creativity is something that that's always been inside of me, especially photography, and that passion and love has grown so much over the years. Nice. Says, even if hypothetically, if I may have created my best photo, that would never stop me from pursuing this art form. It's my passion in life and truly keeps me going. Nice. Binzi says, I wish I had the ability to handhold a 10-minute exposure. Oh, man. Yeah, 60, I think you said 60, yeah, ISO 64. Yeah, that's a long exposure. At 10 minutes, though, you're probably at like, what, F11, F16? Maybe even F22, I don't know. That's cool, though. John Roberts says, water drops are my obsessions for photography. Interesting. John, do you know why that is? Do you know what draws you to water droplets? Very interesting. Mark says, even Alex Webb has a really famous photo of a pigeon. Yes. I think pretty much every photographer has, like every great photographer has at least one famous photo of a pigeon. I, I don't know what it is. I think as human, as the human race, we're just so captivated by the idea of being able to fly. So I think that might be one of the things that draws us to pigeons and seagulls and all these different birds in general, but eagles, all of them. But yeah, I'm that's funny. Brian says, I like documenting things, finding little things that might go unnoticed. I like chasing the little things instead of the epic shots. A lot of the times I'm very much the same way. That's, so much of my detail work, so much of the stuff where I'm honing in and kind of capturing just the small little details, an intimate portrait of whatever it is that I'm photographing. I like that because I like, I think they say beauty is in the details, I don't know. There's just so much to the little details in life, and really even celebrating little successes, and sometimes, especially within our culture, we're so quick to celebrate the grandiose, the big, gigantic, epic celebrations. But I think oftentimes we, especially, I could speak for myself, living in Western civilization here in the States. Sometimes we take things for granted. The fact that I have a room full of books, the fact that I have computers in front of me, not everyone has that. So to be able to hone in and celebrate the small little details of that, I think puts us in a different frame of mind. And I like offering that. One of the things that I touched on in the video this morning was the idea of, I photograph because I love these two-way conversations. You guys know I'm a conversationalist. I enjoy having deep dive conversations, these with you guys every single week. Um, but I also like having them in my photography because I think it puts it into a different place than what words can interpret. Sometimes I can't put things that I'm feeling into words, but I can encapsulate it into the mood of an image. I can encapsulate it into the small little detail of something, and I can start to offer that. And it's another part of the conversation that I'm having, not just with you guys, but with the rest of the world, right? With the world in general, and then also the conversation that they're having back with me, either through their artwork, whether it be photography or painting or writing or dancing or whatever it might be, or through their words, or just through their response to the thing that I'm offering them. I just think it's a beautiful thing to be able to have this unique creative approach to being able to communicate, and also something that transcends language barriers, that transcends the communicational gap that we have when that I especially have. I'm a pretty standard American of, I only know English. I would love to learn French. That way, when I eventually make it out to Paris, I could actually speak the native language. And then also when I get, epic zines in from guys like Jules, I don't butcher the name on the zine and all these different things. I would love to learn this language, but the time that I have to be able to pour into languages and how many languages there are, I can't bridge that gap for everything. But photography can. Photography oftentimes transcends culture, transcends language, transcends all these different barriers that we have within the human race of being able to connect, being able to have relationship. And it puts it in a different level. And that's another reason as to why I continue photographing, why I continue pressing into photography and making a body of work. Andrew says, LOL, yeah, I hear what you're saying. I've been kind of treating them as portraits of pigeons and not so much street. I kind of like the direction it's been going, so I'm going to keep at it. I've been shooting for 3 to 4 years, and I think part of it is I'm starting to build a body of work, and I'm noticing related photos and thinking about making them into a series. I absolutely love that. And again, I know I already have pressed into it and said it over and over, but I wasn't making any kind of commentary on your work of pigeons. I was just saying that it can be something that we sometimes fall into. falling into being not a bad thing either. JS Hearing, or maybe J Shearing, however you say your handle, says an interesting book to look up if you're interested in chairs is Doris Salcedo. Yes. I'm very familiar with Doris Salcedo. And I think what you're talking about is the book about, I mean, she has a lot of different chairs works, but she has a very specific piece that I believe went in Chicago, in between two buildings, to where she completely filled the gap in between the two buildings with chairs. Doris is one of Emily's all-time favorite artists, as well as Anselm Kiefer. And Anselm has also done stuff with beds and chairs and stuff like that as well. So yes, I'm very familiar, and we have a lot of Doris Salcedo books around. So thank you so much. And I'm actually, like Jay Shearing, I absolutely love that you know who Doris Salcedo is, because that's just cool in and of itself. I love hearing when, I'm assuming you're a photographer, being that you're in on this live stream, but even if you're not, I love hearing when photographers are well versed in other art forms, because I think there's so much that we could learn from, cross, disciplinary studies of works. I love studying paintings and sculpture and, all these different things. Let's see here. Finzi says, who gets to say that X is the best photo? Maybe I don't like it as much. Absolutely. And once again, I just covered it a second ago, but again, that's not the topic of conversation really today. It's not necessarily saying whether or not someone should be able to come up and say whether or not we've made our best work. It's just the idea of, when we move beyond the idea of what our best work could be or is, or even making the best work, or when we move beyond that idea, what does it actually leave us with? Michael says, I completely agree with how creative vision evolves. I really appreciated how you answered that. I would like to say that even if hypothetically I would carry on shooting for the love of photography, but I think I genuinely need to take a step back and reevaluate my motivation. I will never stop documenting stuff, but is my heart in the right place? I'm not sure. Interesting. Michael, I think the thing that I've noticed from you and my conversations, both here and over on Instagram, is, and they haven't been like large conversations, but enough to where I feel like I'm kind of watching this evolution in you, to where you're evolving not only in your creative style, and you're kind of thinking in depth on that, but you're also thinking like, what is it that I'm trying to offer to the photographic world in general, both with your gallery page that you set up, to where you're starting to do online exhibitions of people, but then also going, how can I also serve other people? And I love that you're asking these questions of, how can I serve the community? How can I challenge myself creatively? And I think, Michael, you're really setting yourself up for a giant win on so many different levels. And I don't even know what that looks like. I just know that asking the questions that you're asking are the right questions to be asking. Which, on that point, I will say, I guarantee you, this is something that we've kind of touched on in the past, and maybe I'll make a video dedicated to this idea, but I guarantee you, every single photographer that has ever been successful on any kind of platform, whether it was somebody like Scott Kelby, who's successful in serving the photography community, or whether it's someone like Alex Webb, who was brought up earlier, who's been very successful in their artwork, in the endeavors there, I guarantee you their success is because they were asking questions that people who are not successful were not asking. So this is why I bring these things up. This is why we do these deep dives into these things, because the questions that we're asking, and the quality of questions that we're asking, and the quality of answers that we're allowing ourselves to answer. Sometimes we could give surface level answers, and it's not up to other people to start asking us the follow-up questions. We need to start pressing in and pushing beyond the initial answer, the easy answer, the low-hanging fruit, and start going, okay, that's one answer to the question that I'm asking. Is there any other way that I might be able to approach this thing, to see what it ends up evolving into, and what it ends up shifting into? And then the question starts to evolve, and one question leads you to another question, and like I was sharing with Michael a second ago, when you start asking the right questions, I don't even know what the success looks like, but asking the right questions will position you for a lot of success. Andrew says it's either that or birds don't tell you or don't yell at you when you take their their photo. Yeah, they don't. Unless it's geese. If you've ever tried to take photo of a goose, I guess I should say, it will yell at you, and if you get too close, it will then chase you and try and peck your eyes out. Just a forewarning for any geese photographers out there. Finzi says, I was at 5'6", dimly lit house in a rural area. I attempted to channel my inner Todd Hido, however you say his name, I've never known, but that's awesome. ISO 64 film. I'm trying to. Is that an old Coda film? Sounds like a Kodak. Maybe, I don't know. Interesting. That's cool. Michael said, oh no, that was the second part, and I already read that. Jacob says, I think your comment or my comment on your video contradicted the question, but to explain it, I was saying that my life is so wrapped up in photography and that I have very few people to listen to. So if I were to ever be told that I had made my best photo I could possibly make, it's from someone I trust, and that my career is probably at its end, and that's when I do less shooting and spend more time with my old pics. Interesting. Yeah, I had heard you say that, and I don't even know that I don't think that that's necessarily contradicting to the question, because I think if your goal is to make the best photo you could ever make, and if you did feel like you had a trusted source that came up, and again, I think that this will open up a part of the conversation that I don't think that we necessarily need to have, because we've had that kind of conversation in different forms in the past. But I think, Jacob, what that could inform is the fact that that might be your driving force in photography, and if that is so, then understanding why that is, and coming to grips with what that is. So yeah, no, I think that that's a very interesting place to start diving into. God is in the details. Mir van der Rohe. Probably butchered that, whoever that quote is from, but sure. Let's see here. John says, it rains a lot where I live, making lemonade out of lemons. Nice. Somebody that John, if you enjoy the whole aspect of shooting through like rainy windows, if you guys don't know this, Olga, name is Olga Karlovac. I bought this book. So this is they're on Instagram, a beautiful Instagram photographer. Does a lot of slow handheld shutter speed stuff. Obviously you can see the cover here is this shutter drag image. But a lot of their work is actually shooting through. See if I can find a good representation. I opened up to one, but it's here. You can kind of see. So a lot of the work is shot through. Kind of see that, but shot through like rainy windows, and maybe even there might even be rain on their lens filter or something, but the work is just this beautiful body of out of focus and really grainy and very moody stuff, but a lot of it's shot through different windows and stuff that has some sort of water droplets on it, and it makes for very unique street photography. And the consistency that Olga, I think it's a guy, I don't know for sure, so I don't want to start assigning a male or female to him. If it is a female, I'd feel terrible about calling him. Anyways, whoever Olga is, I think the consistency across the board with their work is just really unique, to where they're constantly shooting through rainy windows or whatever it might be. Alan says, it's almost a myth, the idea of a great photo. It's kind of reminding me of your old sequencing video, Nick, which refers to Miles Davis. A mistaken note is not mistaken if the next note makes it Makes sense. Absolutely. Um, you know, I've talked about it in the past. I think, at least for me, the way that I approach work, which actually very interesting. I've never really gotten too far down the Trent Park rabbit trail in listening to interviews or even looking through much of his work. I've seen bodies of work, and I've always thought that he was a great photographer, but I just recently started listening to some interviews with him, and it's crazy because the way that he lays it out is so much of how I've described it in the past and so much of how I picture these things. So if you haven't seen Trent Park's interviews, just go search Trent Trent Park Parke in the YouTubes and just pull up any and all of the interviews with him. There's really some great interviews, but he talks about the same thing too. But for me, at least, the way that I root myself in my work is my bodies of work. Sure, I have some images that stand alone and speak well on their own, but I truly believe that my work starts to shine when it's sequenced, when it's built into a project, when it's built into a larger narrative and a storyline that continues beyond just a single image. And for me, that's very much what I'm trying to do with my work. I don't know if an image is a great photo until it starts ending up into a project, because something that may have been a great photo may start drawing away from the rest of the project when I try and pair it up with other things. So we've talked about it so many times in the past, but yeah, the whole idea, and this is why, again, I don't necessarily want to dive down this rabbit trail, because that could be a whole nother conversation. Um, but the thing is, like, the idea of good photos is really just relative in and of itself. It yeah. So I don't know. Hopefully, I'll put that part of the conversation to rest. Uh, John Roberts says we call it the Pacific Northwest, the wet coast, for a reason. It's a rainforest area. Nice. Kyle Ting, what's up, buddy? You changed your your handle, so now I'm not confused by the handle anymore. So good seeing you in there. Which, by the way, Kyle, you've been killing it on Instagram, man. I seen the photo of, I think it was like a little door propped up against a wall, and the light was just amazing. Your color work, man. I know that you said that you think in black and white, and you feel like you're more solid in black and white. From my perspective, I think your color work is absolutely killing it. So great work, and thanks for sharing it with us. Andrew Gomez says, I mainly focus on pen and ink landscapes, and even on my best work, I find mistakes, so I can't see myself making something that I'm 100% satisfied with. Plus, I live in an area surrounded by agricultural, I'm butchering this, agricultural, so there is always something that inspires me. Nice. Austin Rourke, buddy. Austin's one of my good friends from here in town. He's plugged in. He's one of our volunteers at our ministry, and I just love Austin. You're so awesome, man. I love seeing you in here and joining in on the chat. So thanks for being part of this conversation, buddy. Ricardo says, hey, Nick, I primarily shoot street and landscape. I completely just misread your sentence, but I got the point across. But I recently got a project to shoot a model in a non-studio setting. Any tips, especially posing? Ricardo, I think instead of trying to challenge yourself in learning a completely new form, if you're shooting a lot of street and landscape stuff, then play to your strengths within the portrait session. Like, do more environmental portraits, find the landscapes, find the street scenes that you would typically shoot, and then start having your model interact with that scene, interact with the landscape, interact with the street scene. Give her I would say a good way of thinking about posing and portraiture in this way is giving them directing tips. Direct them, don't pose them. Give them a role to play out in their mind. I don't know. It could be all sorts of different things depending on what your actual, reason for doing the photo shoot is. Maybe she needs headshots or something like that. Then find a good background that you would typically photograph, and then do a headshot with her, and allow the background to go out of focus, and or keep it in focus. I don't know, whatever you want to do with it. But my biggest thing is saying I would play to your strengths, and then look up Roberto Valenzuela and Jeremy Gionis. They're both wedding photographers, and they're where I learned a lot of posing stuff from. So Jerry Gionis is Gerry Gionis, Gionis, and then Roberto is Roberto Valenzuela. Sound it out. Valenzuela, I believe is what it is. Look up those two photographers. If you need to, you could go back and replay this video and grab that and look those two guys up, because their posing stuff is amazing. Let's see here. Kyle Ting says, I took photos of some geese in front of my apartment and you live to tell the story. This is amazing. John Roberts says, it is the Canadian rite of passage for a child getting chased by a Canadian goose. Andrew says Canadian goose equals cobra chicken. They're brutal. When I was a kid, so side story, and for any PETA members or animal cruelty activists out there, I apologize. I was a kid, but I had a slingshot, and there was a family of geese at the campground that we used to go to, and all it took was one stone. I took one stone, flung it at a goose, hit the goose in the head, which didn't really phase it at all. So don't worry, the goose lived to tell the story. I almost didn't, because the entire flock of geese turned around and with like a giant squeal of a squawk, just started chasing me down. And I'm pretty sure I was screaming for my dear life. My buddy was laughing because he said that I sounded like a velociraptor running through the trail, screaming my head off. I've since then, that was my big story on learning how to treat animals. I have no longer shot animals with a slingshot. So anyways, John Wilkinson, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. Says Kodachrome came in ISO 25 and 64. Nice. That's what I was thinking. Maybe it was Kodachrome, but which I've heard that there's one person out there that will develop Kodachrome and get it to close to the right colors. John Roberts says, exactly, in regards to the Canadian goose cobra chicken. Then, Andrew, I almost feel like you need to make a t-shirt of that. That's amazing. It is Ektachrome 64T, by the way. Nice. Okay, yes, Ektachrome. I was going to say, that definitely sounds like a Kodak Chrome ISO level. So Jacob says, I definitely am not using that as my motivation. I think it's an odd way to say that it's not an important factor when making photos for me. I reread an interview of mine. It's a lifestyle for me. I reread an interview of mine. It's a lifestyle for me. Nice. Spencer Reed, what's up, buddy? Good seeing you out there. Spencer, we got to get our next call on the line. Spencer and Jules are two of our patrons that have signed up for coaching calls, and I'm helping them hit just the next level in their photography and hit their goals. So Spencer's doing some amazing things. He just started working on a zine, and I think it's like pretty much done, right? But anyways, congrats, buddy, on getting some steps going with that. Just got on. What are we talking about? We're talking about Canadian geese chasing me down when I was a kid. We're talking about all sorts of stuff. So anyways, we're diving into the morning's topic in depth, really talking about why it is that we create in the first place. While we're at this point, 53 minutes in, let me give a little like intermission. Gives me a little breather because I could kind of switch gears and allow you guys to continue messaging. But if you're enjoying this conversation, give it a thumbs up. Lets YouTube know that it's content worth pushing out there in front of everyone. I want to get these live streams seen by more people, because not from the sake of me getting more views or anything like that on YouTube, but just for the sake of these conversations are so incredible, and I absolutely love them, and I think that they're really going to serve a lot of people well. So if you think about it afterwards, share the content, share the live stream. with some of your friends and see if they want to, you know, catch up on the conversation as well. And then also just a pause for two different shout outs and two different promotional things. First of all is Two Stop. So there's new hats. Actually, the grain hat isn't on the website yet because I've changed up the way that we're doing the embroidery. This looks great, but I think that there's an improvement that we can make. But then also the t-shirts. Where's my... I don't know if this is the contrast grain sole. There's the new grain t-shirt. There's all the classics. But go over and check out twostopsapparel.com, and if you use the promo code of SOFT15, you'll actually get 15% off t-shirts and hats currently, because I just switched over to the new production company, and we're doing kind of a soft launch to make sure that we have all the bugs worked out. Don't worry, like, all the bugs on the printing side and everything are worked out, but you guys going and making these initial purchases, me giving you the discount code, you'll get a discount, and then it also gives us the ability to make sure that we have everything honed in on the back end. So go over and check that out, twostopsapparel.com, and it's soft, as in like soft launch, soft 15. And I had originally opened it up to 5. If you end up using that link today or tomorrow and it doesn't work, or if you end up using that discount code, let me know and I'll reopen it up. I think I want to push it beyond and just give more than 5 people the discount. So and then the second thing is patreon.com. This is the way that I just am allowed to be able to get support from you guys on a monthly basis, that it brings me to a place where I could afford new equipment and take things to the next level. But then also specifically, I'm trying to hit the $500 a month level. That's the next goal that we have set up, and that's going to allow me to make it up to, we're talking about the Pacific Northwest. I'd love to make it out there, the lower Californian coast, Texas and Washington DC, and Tennessee, all sorts of different places that I want to make it out to and do more meetups and get to meet you guys face to face. So at the $500 level, or at the not $500 level, but once we hit 500 as a patron family and community, it'll give me the flexibility of being able to purchase more flights and be able to get out and meet you guys face to face. So for $3, $5, whatever, $10 a month, or if you hit at $15, that's our executive producer level. There's a zine level to where you get pre-release of all the zines. There's all sorts of stuff, but go check it out, patreon.com/NickExposed. It keeps me going for being able to come up with the freedom in my schedule to push this thing to a whole new level, and we could have more great conversations like this. So let me get caught back up on the comments here. First, actually, before I move on, I want to give a huge shout out and thank you to all of our Patreon family that's in the chat today. I see so many of you guys, and also if you sign up for Patreon during our conversation here, let me know in the comments, because I want to give you a huge shout out. Oops, let's see here. Oh, come on, I can't get my little scroller thingy. John Roberts says, we're talking about each other's photographic obsessions. Yes, we are talking about that as well. Oh, sorry, I'm at agriculture. Oh, maybe that was the thing. That was the thing that was catching me up. Did you say something, you must have spelled it a different way? Maybe that was why I was caught up. Or maybe I just can't talk today. Either one is a very, very large possibility. Justin Lowry says, which, by the way, Justin, always good seeing you in here. Just wanted to say I really enjoyed today's video, and your story and mine have a crazy ton in common. Our stories are practically identical. We've talked about it a little bit in the past, and I know that we talked about eventually getting a video call on. So Justin, let me know. I'd love to catch up with you sometime and hear a little bit more of your story now that you've gotten to hear a little bit more of mine. Spencer Reed says, how do you get really contrasting photos in camera that look good? Spencer, if you can kind of... Got to go, breaks over. Oh, bummer. I wasn't able to answer your question. Well, Spencer, if you end up watching this back later on, that question can mean a couple different things. So hit me up, and we can talk about it the next time we get our call in. But hit me up over on Instagram, and I can answer that for you as well. Ricardo says, awesome. Thanks for the advice on the portraiture. You're welcome. And Ricardo, if it's something that you're delving into more and more, I highly suggest those two photographers. There's different courses that you could purchase, and I highly suggest purchasing them. One's from Creative Live, and the other one's from Kelby Training. Excuse me, but both are very, very much worth it. Oh man, for whatever reason, it's always like an hour and 10 minutes in, I start getting the burps, and I feel terrible. So I'm sorry for that, guys. Alan says, you got what's coming. I love geese, so sassy. Yeah, I definitely deserve being chased down and running, screaming for my life. Geese are so insane. Yes, they are. Cobra Chicken was on Reddit yesterday, so I can't take full credit for that. Oh, I've never heard of that before, so I thought it was a new thing that you came up with. Andrew says, what I've learned from this chat is Nick learned not to shoot birds with a slingshot, and he decided to shoot them with a camera instead. That's very well said. Yes, exactly. Dylan, what's up? Good seeing you out there. Barely made it in. Well, welcome. We're glad that you were able to catch on for the tail end of this thing. Alan says, Andrew Robert, and it's important lesson. An important lesson. It was for him. Yes. Michael says, I've got to go. Thanks, everyone, for contributing, and thanks, Nick, for the encouragement once again. I'll DM you sometime this week, no doubt. Great stream. Thanks, all. Thanks, buddy. Good seeing you out there. Alan says, by the way, Nick, I ordered a t-shirt with the promo code today. Thanks. I did see that. Thank you so much for the support, and I think you're really going to enjoy that white grain t-shirt that you got coming to you. I've been loving the, I don't know, lately I've just been in this mood where all the t-shirts I'm putting out have this. Where is it? There we go. The pocket, the left corner, left shirt pocket. I don't know, whatever they call it. I should know. I make the t-shirts, but I just been loving this style, and I have a couple more that I think are really going to go over with the community well. And if they don't, I don't really care, because I just want them in my closet. And that's what all the t-shirts are. All the t-shirts are stuff that I want in my closet. Also, to not take too much time talking about Two Stops, but the cool thing that I just recently did with Two Stops is I removed all of the color, and maybe some of you guys might not think it's a cool thing right off the get-go, but I removed all the color t-shirt options. So it's legitimately black and white, like my photography, like Two Stops, in the whole culture of pushing black and white film Two Stops. You know, I really want to dive into really honing in on the micro culture of pushing black and white film, and just building a culture around the clothing line that way. So hence the grain, hence the contrast grain sole, hence all these different things. But at the same time, some of the things that I have coming out will also kind of hit on a different level. But it's all black and white clothing now, which I absolutely love, because it's just unique. Who goes to a apparel line and all you can get is black and white clothing? That's what Two Stops is now. So, and then I will release like special edition color t-shirts and stuff, kind of like my work, to where sometimes I post up color images on my Instagram story. They're few and far between. They expire after 24 hours. So the color t-shirts that go out will be very short run limited edition t-shirts that will expire after either 24 hours or a week, or 15 copies of them. So it'll be kind of a fun thing to be able to play with as well. So I don't know, I just felt like it just fit with the whole thing that I do with my photography, and I think it plays over well to the apparel line. Justin says, I'm working on my 3rd issue of my zine. Just been busy with YouTube production and procrastinating too much on writing the essay narrative content. All the layout has been done for weeks now. Nice. I'm excited to, I don't know, I think I need to order your 2nd copy. I don't think I have a copy of it. I need to get my hand. I don't think I have a copy of your 2nd one, so I gotta get that. Hopefully there's still some available. But that sounds awesome. I always love your salt and light issues and everything that you dive into with those. Alan says, I'm out too. Thanks, Nick, and have a good one all. See you, buddy. Peace. Michael says, oh, and before I go, your exhibition posted a new feature on frame and sprockets. David Fioritos this week would really appreciate you checking out his inspirational story. Yourexhibition.net. Yes, go check it out. I highly suggest going over and showing Michael some love, but most importantly, showing the photographers that Michael's given love to, showing them some love. So go check it out. Let's see here. Justin says, yes, we should definitely do a video call. Would love to chat. Hugh Pfeiffer says, hey, Nick, just tuned in. Hey, welcome. We're on the tail end of the conversation, but I'm glad that you're able to make it. And I'm also glad that this conversation was recorded and will be up live right after this for you to be able to go back and watch the back stream, because this was an amazing, amazing conversation. We went in deep today, and I really loved the comments that all of you guys brought into this. So, let's see here. Andrew says, I got to run. Justin says, I was planning to send you one anyways. Again, procrastinating too much. Well, thank you, buddy. I appreciate that. I would absolutely love to be able to look through it. Tyler Belt, hey, buddy. Good seeing you out there. Gotta go. See you, Andrew. Man, a lot of people jumping out right now. What time is it? That's because normally this is the time that we normally end. If I don't start late, I've completely lost track of time at work today. We had a day-long meeting, and then I had a meeting about the meeting right after the meeting, so I ended up losing track of time today. More grain, yes, more grain, always more grain. I love grain. So I think that our conversation has kind of come to a natural end here, so I think that we're probably good to start jumping out, but I'll give like maybe 2-3 more minutes if you guys want to ask any kind of off-the-wall questions or anything like that. I'll do kind of an open call for questions, but then specifically I'll kind of finish off while you guys are asking any questions that you might have. Specifically finish off with kind of, again, if you just joined in or if you joined in halfway through, not next week, within the next few weeks, I'll be finishing up season 2 of 2 Minute Tuesday. So season 1 had 30 episodes in it. We're at 15, episode 15 right now in season 2. Episode 20 will be the last episode of season 2, and from there we're actually cutting and quitting the idea of 2 Minute Tuesday, but not to be feared. We're going to continue the structure of a video in the morning and then jumping into a live stream and having a live conversation in the afternoon. It's just going to be called and branded something different. So one, I think it's going to be a nice little fresh bump in the middle of the whole YouTube career that I'm on. I don't know, whatever you want to call it, but I think it will kind of shake some things up, even though it will be much of the same kind of platform. In the time that I take off between the second season of 2 Minute Tuesday and the first season of whatever it becomes, it'll give me some time to be able to brand the whole thing and be able to do it at maybe a little bit better production quality of presentational materials. I'll still probably shoot everything on my iPhone because it's simple and it makes life super easy, but at the same time, yeah, we're gonna move in a different direction. So if you guys do have any like ideas of what it could be called, what it could be branded as, let me know. I'd love to hear, and I'm open to all sorts of different ideas. Kyle Ting says, meeting about the meeting about the meeting. Meeting inception. Yes, very much so. Tyler says, advice for sharing photos without a scanner. So Renato, how do I say his last name? Repetto? Renato has a blog post over on his Medium page about scanning with an iPhone. And I think it's a great way of doing it if you're just going to post up to social media. So if you want that link if you just want the link to Renato's Instagram handle, just hit me up on Instagram. I'll send you that over, and then you can find his Medium post on his Medium website, and it's a great write-up. It makes it super simple. The other way is you could just have prints. You know, if you make your prints and then just take photos of the prints, you could start sharing those up. Ty in black and white, Ty in BW, is a Instagrammer, Tyler from Chicago, who shoots with I think like an X Pro 1 or X Pro 2 or something like that. He also shoots with his Leica, but what he does every single time is he makes a print on either a darker print. He hasn't made those in a little bit, so most of them have been, well, I guess if you're going to make a print, you're going to need a scan anyway. So with that being said, that doesn't really answer your question. So what I would say is go check out Renato's idea on scanning with your iPhone and making just a contact print kind of scan in that way to where you could actually post up on social media. So that would be my suggestion for that. Justin says, what combo of camera developer are you using these days? Also, why did you switch to DSLR scanning? Couple things. So combo, let's see here, camera developer that I'm using. I'm using Leica M2 with the Leica glass that I have, and then all HP5 push 2 stops. I've also been shooting a decent amount of color these days. I haven't gotten any of it developed. I have a handful of rolls in my fridge here that need to be developed and scanned at some point, but I'll be sending those off one day when I'm rich and famous, I guess. So much money into that, but so mostly it's HP5 at 1600. Okay, I see your next comment. We all know HP5 at 1600. Yes, sorry, I should have guessed. Everyone knows that. But yeah, it's still the Leica, and then developer is HC110. I do have a thing. I have an M3 coming in to where now I'll have native 50mm frame lines. So I think what I'm going to use the M3 for is gas. Pigs are flying. Yes, actually, this is where I was going with that. Is I think I'm going to use the M3 for a while at least to shoot color throughout the summer. I have a large stock of color film that I just want to work through and build a project on, and build a project without even knowing what the project is looking like as I'm moving forward. So I have that coming in. And I'll be working with the 50mm and the 90mm on the M3, and then the 35mm will stay on the M2. So that's the big thing there. Why did I move to DSLR scanning? Couple reasons. Because one, we stopped doing wedding photography, so I've had our DSLR with our macro lens that we used to do detail shots with, sitting around for a while, and I figured why not just put that to use. Two, you know, it's one of the things to where I know that with DSLR scanning, my workflow on the Pacon is not as slow is not as fast as other people's workflow. I don't use the I don't know, PSI program that most people use to make it a fast workflow, because one, the way that I push my film and the way that I overexpose my film, the PSI app, at least I never took time to really figure it out, didn't necessarily read it properly. So I would always scan raw files with the Pacon using the TLX program, the aftermarket program. I would get 16-bit raw files, but each of those raw files would have to be converted in Photoshop individually. So there was a Photoshop action that I would run it through. So one roll of film in my workflow, I know that it could work a lot faster, but in my workflow, one roll of film would take anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. And I knew that with DSLR scanning, I could probably reduce that workflow, which I have, and I would also get larger files and be able to even work with the manipulation of the levels before actually photographing. I could make my exposure compensation or anything like that. So I don't know, gives me a little bit more creative play, even though the Pacon, I mean, I've loved the Pacon. The Pacon was a godsend. It did drastically change my workflow from scanning on a flatbed in going into the dedicated Pacon, but I think the DSLR scanning for my workflow at least will probably just work a little bit better, and I'm going to make an entire video about that and talk about it. So yeah, I think that answers all your questions. Hannah says, I wanted to ask you about exhibit labels and what kind of basis you cover for photos label. Yeah, probably have some in the background, but maybe I threw them all away. Anyway, so I cover just the whatever kind of print it is. So if it's an inkjet print, if it's a darkroom print, I'll talk about that. I'll also all right, sorry. Emily was texting me. She did text me a little while ago, so I do got to get going here in a minute. Emily's actually on her 2-week artist residency out in Vermont. So I've been missing her, and I've felt so lonely at home. It's been weird, and I don't like being away from my wife for so long. But at the same time, she's making amazing work out there. You can follow her progress over at Emily Rose Mayo over on Instagram. I got to give my wife a little shout out, so go check her work out, because she's building something pretty sweet in the space that she's working in over there. But with exhibition labels, yeah, I put the price, I put the man, I haven't had to print one out in a couple months, so that's a good question. I know that I'll put like silver gelatin if it's a silver gelatin print, or inkjet if it's an inkjet print, and then sometimes I'll put on that it was made with a 35mm film. So yeah, Hannah, ask me later and I'll see if I could find a picture of one of the ones that I have printed up. 2 Stops Tuesday, because 2 videos a day. Hey. Yeah, I have considered the idea of 2 Stops Tuesday. Somebody brought it up earlier, and I do like that idea. So DSLR on macro. Yes, a DSLR with a macro lens. And I built an entire rig that I found from another set of YouTubers that put it out. It was really the only video that they ever put out on their channel, which is a shame because they did a great job with the video. But I'll be talking about that in a video probably in the next week or two. Sex, silk, and sugar at 1600. Interesting. Kyle says, wait, you have an M3 now. It's coming in tomorrow. Heyo. Because I'm biased. M3 over M2. I think I probably still like my M2 more, just because I can shoot the 3 lenses that I shoot on a regular basis. And the M2 will probably go with me everywhere, and then the M3 will go with me when I'm intentionally going out to shoot color. But there will be some stuff like that. Vermont is so beautiful. I spent 2 summers there for a few years ago playing classical music. Nice. Yeah, Emily's been telling me that it's a lot like Maine, neighboring states, but so she feels like it's a lot like the artist residency that we went to back in 2016, which I actually talked about on this morning's video. But anyways, thank you guys. Thank you. This was a great conversation. Thanks for asking these last couple of questions to just kind of end us on a fun note of being able to, I don't know, talk shop a little bit. But at the same time, if you jumped in at the end of the stream, go back and watch at the beginning of the stream, because it's absolutely amazing, the conversation that you guys brought up today, and the different points that you guys were adding in on everything. So Dylan says, my dream is to go to the residency at Mount Rainier. Yes, it's an amazing residency over there. I've heard very much good things about it. But have a great day. Say hi to Emily. I sure will. Thank you guys. I appreciate you. I'm actually probably going to jump onto a phone call with her right now, so I'll tell her you guys said hi. But thank you guys. I love you guys. Go check out the videos from last week too. By the way, the zine video from last week, there's a zine feature video that I am surprised that it hasn't crossed 1,000 views, because this video has some amazing work in it. So go check that out, and give those photographers some love. Go check out their Instagram handles and everything like that. But go check out the videos from last week, and I'll have some other videos coming up later on this week. But until then, I love you guys. I appreciate you guys jumping on here and having this conversation with me, as always. And I will see you guys on the next live stream. I'll see you guys on the next video, and I'll see you over on Instagram. So love you guys. Peace.